In the annals of boxing history, there are moments that etch themselves into our collective memory, battles that define eras, and fighters who transcend time. 2023 has been one of the best years we've seen in boxing for quite a few in my opinion, and we have arguably seen 4 of the best elite fighters of this generation make an impact too. And after their most recent performances, these names are synonymous with excellence, 4 faces etched in that metaphorical Mt Rushmore of our generation. Terence "Bud" Crawford, a switch-hitting master and complete fighter. Naoya "the Monster" Inoue, the embodiment of explosive power and precision. Oleksandr Usyk, a southpaw artist who has tremendous ring generalship and IQ. While Canelo Alvarez, a Mexican warrior who has been the face of boxing for many years. Now obviously, there will be differences in opinion on whether these 4 fighters even deserve to be mentioned here.
Well, let me ask you this. Who was the best boxer ever, in your opinion? I know you're a boxing expert.
Me?
You?
But in this video, I want to build a case as to why they deserve this accolade right in this moment in time in 2023. And yes, before I start, I know some of you will have a different opinion on who should be on this list, but that is the point of this video, to build a case as to why they are boxing's elite 4. Now before I go into each fighter, I just want to let you know the criteria I'm covering for each fighter, and obviously this is just my opinion, and these are the criteria I will be judging them on. Number 1, I'll be assessing their overall boxing ability, which includes things like their technical skill, offense and defense, ring generalship, and KO and finishing ability. Number 2, I'll compare their numbers and stats. 3, I'll look at their resume and achievements to date, including who I think their top 3 wins are. Number 4, their impact and legacy. And finally, just their entertainment value. And I will be doing these in no particular order, so don't get offended if you think I've done this in a rank. But on that note, let's get on to the first fighter. So first up, let's take a look at the Japanese boxing superstar, the monster, Naoya Inoue, who in recent years has really started to raise his profile.
Hey, look up this young fighter called the Monster. You ever hear Monster? No. Japanese fighter called Monster. This is a monster. He's a mean son of a bitch. Yeah, let's check him out, man.
Now in terms of his boxing ability, he just seems to be getting better and better as he's gotten older, and adding far more elements to his game. He's not just some power puncher, but is in fact a very versatile fighter now, who can act as a pressure fighter or an out-and-out counter puncher. For me, he is arguably the best body puncher in the sport, in particular that left hook to the liver, while he also intelligently looks to target the solar plexus at times, which can be truly devastating for his opponents. His defensive skills have also seen much improvement, and I like how he changes his guard by going into a shoulder roll, or just by using simple footwork to get himself out of range. Not to mention, his ring IQ is very underrated in my opinion, and he's always looking for ways to set up his opponent with precise power punches, as he very intelligently interchanges his shots from head to body, and due to the reputation he's built up over the years, it makes his opponents very hesitant on where they should try and defend, the body or the head. Just look at his knockdown versus Stephen Fulton. He persisted in going to the body for the whole fight. By the 7th round, Fulton dropped his guard just enough for Inoue to set up a devastating right hand up top. In most cases, he's able to get the KO usually with that left hook, or even throwing a right hand, before finishing them off with a ferocious barrage of punches. And you'd have to say he's one of the best finishers in the sport right now. And currently, when I posted this video, he has a knockout ratio of 92%, one of the highest in boxing right now. Across the board, if you look at his stats, he probably has the best of them all. On average, he throws about 63 punches around, landing 22 of them. His power punch connection is 35.2%. He lands about 9 jabs per round, while he also lands about 13.5 power punches. And I guess the only worst stat compared to the other fighters is that opponents have a higher punch connection against Inoue. But at the same time, you have to consider his style is quite aggressive, so he's always there to be hit. In terms of his resume, I think he sometimes doesn't get the credit he deserves, due to him being in the lower weight divisions, and many people not knowing too much about those divisions as well. So far, he's gone on to defeat 12 world champions. His most notable wins for me were obviously Nonito Donaire, Stephen Fulton, and Omar Narvaez. But let's have a quick look at each of those fights. In the year Inoue won his first fight at 108 pounds, he skipped an entire weight division and went up to junior bantamweight to fight Narvaez. Prior to this fight, Narvaez had been undefeated at junior bantamweight for years and had made 11 title defenses. And obviously Inoue is an incredible boxer, crushed Narvaez in just 2 rounds with that devastating left hook to the liver. And in my opinion, this could be considered Inoue's best win, as he skipped a whole weight category and defeated Narvaez by knockout, something no one had ever done in his whole career, with the monster being the only one to ever do it. The next fight is obviously with Nonito Donaire in that Battle of Saitama, and obviously this fight answered a lot of questions about Inoue. He proved that he had a strong chin, unwavering determination, and was capable of overcoming adversity in that fight. In addition, he displayed genuine boxing skills by going the full 12 rounds of Donaire. However, the fact Donaire exceeded expectations has maybe taken away from Inoue's impressive performance, and despite suffering a fractured orbital bone early in the fight, Inoue was still able to come out and outbox Donaire for most of the rounds, even coming close to finishing the fight in the 11th round. And in the end, Inoue won the World Boxing Super Series with an impressive victory over a legendary fighter. He would go on to obviously have a rematch with Donaire later down the line, beating him in even more devastating fashion. And obviously his most recent fight versus Stephen Fulton, I think was a true masterclass in just overall skill set, as I touched on just before. Especially as Stephen Fulton, in my opinion, is a very good fighter at super bantamweight, and that was the first time Inoue fighting in that division. And with him already picking up 2 of the belts in that division, he could become undisputed again by his next fight at 122 pounds. And I wouldn't be surprised if he can continue climbing up the weight divisions over the next few years. In terms of his impact in the sport, I think it's been huge in terms of raising awareness in the lower weight divisions and Japanese boxing. It also helps that he backs up his famous nickname of the Monster with knockout after knockout. For that reason, it's no wonder people want to tune in to watch him. Overall, he just has a very entertaining style, whether you just want to see a knockout or you're more of a boxing purist and want to see skills on display, as he's usually looking to cut off the ring and apply pressure, trapping you in the ropes or corners before unleashing those powerful combinations or landing a devastating body punch, and you can't take your eyes off the fight or it could be over before you know it, and that is why you have to consider him as one of boxing's elite right now.
Oh, I love it. The monster.
Now let's shift our focus to Omaha boxing sensation and 2-time undisputed champion Terence "Bud" Crawford. When it comes to Terence Crawford's boxing ability, 2 words come to my mind: versatile and complete. He's not just a one-trick pony, he's a master of multiple styles and can adapt seamlessly to any opponent. What sets Crawford apart is his ability to switch stances. He's equally comfortable fighting as a southpaw or orthodox fighter, confounding his opponents with his unpredictable stance changes throughout the rounds, and it's a unique skill that has baffled some of the best in the business. Crawford's boxing IQ is also off the charts, and he's a strategist in the ring.
You know, you got my jab, you got my movement, you got my counter punching ability, you got just my brain, the way I think, just all around.
While he's backed up by his team of trainers who always seem to put in the perfect game plan, helping Crawford to always think several moves ahead, whether he needs to control the fight as the aggressor or sit back and look to counterpunch. Crawford can do it all. And one of Crawford's standout attributes which makes him one of the best in the sport is his defensive prowess. He's an expert at slipping punches, using head movement, brilliant footwork, employing a tight guard when needed, and his ability to avoid damage while setting up traps himself is a testament again to his ring intelligence. But I guess what really truly sets Crawford apart for me is just his killer instinct. When he senses an opening, he pounces with precision and power to take out his opponent, and his accuracy in targeting opponents' weaknesses is second to none. Crawford's bodywork is also exceptional, and maybe underrated to some, as he does land some brutal body shots that saps away their energy and will. He just always seems to prove that he has everything to defeat a fighter. For instance, his fight against Kell Brook, Crawford patiently broke down Brook with a precise jab that did the damage before unleashing a right hook that spelled the end of the fight, showing his finishing ability is truly ruthless, making him one of the best finishers in the sport. Not to mention his absolute domination of a highly rated pound-for-pound star in Errol Spence Jr., who he completely dominated and made him look lost and ordinary. How many fighters can do such a thing? terms of that knockout ratio, it's at 77.5%, just showing that he's able to finish off the fight in most cases. In a sport that demands adaptability, intelligence, and power, Terence Crawford embodies all of these qualities, and he's a true force in the ring and a fighter to keep fans on the edge of their seats. Now, looking at his numbers, Crawford is actually a lot more active than he would have you believe, throwing the second highest out of these 4 elite while landing 16 on average. But his power punch connection is also the highest at 46.8%. However, his defensive acumen comes through his numbers, with the opponent's total connection being at 21%, the same as Inoue. While in terms of power punches connecting on him, only 26.6% land on him. While his opponent's total punch landed per round is one of the fewest in boxing, with only Tyson Fury, Dimitri Bivol and Stevenson being lower than him. For Bud's resume and achievements, I feel many did not give him his due before the Spence fight, as he had not fought so-called elite fighters compared to others. But in my opinion, he's always fought solid competition along the way in his career. He's just always been that much better. Not to mention, he's so far a 3-weight world champion and undisputed in 2 of those divisions at 140 and 147 pounds. While he's also defeated 10 world champions so far, while in world title fights, he's defeated 18 opponents, 15 of those coming by knockout. It's crazy to me that still some people play down his success so far, and in my opinion, if I didn't tell you the name, you would say that was a Hall of Fame career. In terms of his best wins, I have to go with Gamboa, Porter and Spence. For the Gamboa fight, many at the time felt it was his toughest challenge at the time, and would struggle with the speed of the Cuban, even being hurt in that fight in the early rounds. However, in Crawford fashion, he was able to adapt by moving to a southpaw stance, adjusting to the speed and range of Gamboa, knocking him down once in the 5th round and again in the 8th, and finally twice in the 9th round to secure a TKO. His biggest challenge, however, came against IBF and WBC welterweight champion Shawn Porter, and during that showdown, Crawford dazzled with his switch hitting, putting on an extraordinary display that tested him at times. And in the pivotal moment in the 10th round, Crawford unleashed a devastating counter left uppercut, flooring Porter in the process, before following it up with yet another knockdown, forcing Porter's corner to throw in the towel, and shutting up a lot of haters in the process. Finally, I have to put Spence in due to him just being highly considered one of the best pound for pound top 10 at the time. Crawford delivered a truly masterful performance, dominating the fight from start to finish, knocking down Spence 3 times in the process, before ultimately securing the 9th round technical knockout, as the ref had no choice but to step in. This victory not only crowned him as the first undisputed welterweight champion since 2006, but also marked a historic feat as the first male boxer in the 4-belt era to attain that undisputed championship in 2 weight divisions. Terence Crawford is synonymous with his slick and versatile boxing. His ability to seamlessly switch stances and adapt to any opponent has refined the art of ringcraft. Crawford's fights serve as a masterclass in the importance of fluidity between orthodox and southpaw stances, showcasing the true essence of a complete fighter. As a pound for pound talent, Crawford's accomplishments speak for themselves. With numerous title unifications, there's no denying he has to be recognised as one of the sport's elite of this generation, but it's his demonstration of strategic importance of switching stances at crucial times in a fight that truly sets him apart for me. Crawford's performances teach us that in modern boxing, being a true tactician who can effortlessly transition between styles is an invaluable asset. While for me, watching Crawford isn't just witnessing a fight, it's a lesson of the sweet science and the craft of boxing. Not to mention his adaptability and slick style make him captivating and entertaining to watch, as he's able to finish you off at any moment. And that's why he's one of the best of this generation. Now, let's turn our attention to the Ukrainian boxing artist Oleksandr Usyk. In the realm of boxing ability, Usyk is a class apart. What sets him apart is his extraordinary combination of skills and his remarkable ring IQ. He's not just a fighter, he's a strategist, a technician, and as I said, an artist in the ring. Usyk's hallmark is his exceptional footwork. He moves around the ring with the grace of a ballet dancer, darting in and out of range with precision. His footwork allows him to control the distance, making it challenging for opponents to land clean shots, while being a southpaw gives him positional advantage, He's always slipping his upper body and keeping his head off the centre line, making it difficult to catch him cleanly too. And one of Usyk's standout qualities is his ability to adapt to any style, whether neutralising a brawler swarmer style on the inside or outboxing a rangier fighter from the outside. His ability to change up his route of attack adds another layer of complexity to his game, always keeping his opponents guessing on what could come next.
Anyone who chooses to have a boxing match with this guy is going to lose. He's the best natural boxer in the world. Everyone above 175, he is the best by a mile.
Usyk's defensive skills are also top notch, as he possesses the uncanny ability to make opponents miss with his head and upper body movement, and his superior sense of timing and positioning with his footwork. When he chooses to engage, his counter-punching is both swift and deadly, as he usually puts it together in a combination. But what truly makes Usyk remarkable is his boxing IQ. He's a master at reading his opponents, anticipating their moves, and setting up traps. He lures them into his world, where he can showcase his diverse skill set. And let's not forget the cruiserweight dominance. Usyk cleaned out a whole division at the time, with finesse and style, unifying the titles and winning the World Boxing Super Series. Usyk's heavyweight venture has been no less impressive either, and he's taken on giants in the division such as Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, proving that his skills can transcend to the heavyweight division. In terms of his knockout power, Usyk may not be known for his one-punch knockouts, but his cumulative damage and relentless pace has often led to late round stoppages. He grinds down his opponents and finishes them off with precision or a well put together combination. In terms of his numbers, the Ukrainian has the lowest KO rate at 66.7%, which is the lowest of the Elite Four I'm talking about. However, if you've been watching Usyk for a while, you will know he is not per se a KO artist, as I just mentioned, due to his more European amateur style being a big influence in his approach in the ring. And I think it's actually his southpaw jab and lead hand pressure which is clearly the best out of the four, and this is backed up by his jab numbers. His average jabs thrown per round is 28.3, while his highest jab thrown percentage is 58.1%, just behind Bivol, and his highest jab land percentage is 36.8%, just being behind Inoue and Bivol again. However, for a cruiserweight and heavyweight to be throwing so many jabs per round is truly impressive, and due to Usyk's constant movement and use of the lead hand as an offensive and defensive tool, opponents' total punch connection on Usyk is 19.9%. However, you also need to consider his terrific footwork and movement alongside this, making it a very difficult fight to win that lead hand battle. In terms of his achievements, for someone who turned pro a lot later than the rest of them due to his amateur participation, it's pretty outstanding in my opinion. And talking about his amateur career, he won gold at the European Games, World Championships and the London 2012 Olympics. By the time he went pro, he was 26, winning his first world title fight in his 10th fight at cruiserweight. Now, yes, you could say that it wasn't as competitive a division back then, or there wasn't as many fighters as some of the lighter weight divisions, but to win a world title in your 10th fight is pretty impressive. And not to mention, Usyk is a road warrior and has a record of 13-0 away from home with 6 KOs, winning all his fights out of his native Ukraine. While he is 10-0 in world title fights so far, becoming undisputed in the cruiserweight division as I just mentioned, and he's a unified heavyweight world champion as he went on to defeat Anthony Joshua twice, and is obviously one belt away from becoming a 2-time undisputed champion. Now, whether the fight happens with Fury or not, the fact he's been able to do this in so little fights is truly remarkable in my opinion. In terms of his resume, I think he's fought and defeated some very good fighters, and in terms of his top 3, I have to go with Briedis, Gaziev and Anthony Joshua. In his fight against Briedis, Usyk faced probably his toughest challenge out of all his fights so far, and it was a closely contested battle, with both fighters landing hard shots throughout. As usual, Usyk showed his high work rate and controlled the fight with his jab while applying pressure when needed. He also received a cut over the right eye in an accidental clash of heads in the 3rd round, but from the 5th round onwards, Usyk continued to be the busier fighter and took control of the fight, and despite facing some hard shots from the Latvian, Usyk's superior ring generalship earned him a majority decision victory, and even after that fight, Usyk said that was his hardest fight of his career. Next up, I have to go with his performance versus Gaziev in the World Boxing Super Series final. It was a swarmer brawler style versus a boxer, and Usyk quickly established control with his commanding jab and exceptional movement. he showcased his superior boxing skills, outclassing and outboxing Gaziev from rounds 1 to 12, throwing 939 punches compared to Gaziev's 313. With that win, Usyk became the first ever 4-belt undisputed cruiserweight champion, solidifying himself as one of the greatest ever cruiserweights. And finally, you have to give him credit for his performance versus Anthony Joshua. For me, particularly, the first fight. And despite massive doubts from the majority of boxing fans and pundits, including myself, that he would be too small to take out Joshua, Usyk defied the odds again and got a huge upset by outboxing Joshua and rocking him several times over the 12 rounds, despite being the much smaller man in height, reach and weight. That night, he gave Joshua a boxing masterclass, as Usyk totally silenced the pro-Joshua crowd, and something I was there to witness myself. In terms of his impact and legacy in the sport, while he's not known for his knockout power, his impact goes beyond brute force. He's an artist of the sweet science. He has a unique style with graceful footwork, beautiful combination punching, control of range and distance, with beautiful rhythm and timing. When you watch Usyk, it's not just a fight, it's a masterclass in skill and finesse. And I know this won't be for everyone in terms of entertainment wise, but if you're someone that loves the sweet science and the intricate details, you can't help but admire his ability. And the fact he's continued to fight away from home, fighting in crowds, booing and very much against him, just shows you the spirit of the fighter he really is as well. And whether he goes on to win versus Fury or not, he'll be one of the most highly respected fighters of this generation.
At what moment though did you realise you were good at boxing and think, yes, I have a talent for this?
То талант это 1% от того, что мы делаем. Все остальное это плодотворный труд, ограничение себя во многих вещах. И по сей день я знаю, что если ты не будешь достаточно много выполнять работы, то у тебя ничего не получится.
Now for the final boxer of the Elite Four, let's shine the spotlight on the Mexican warrior and arguably the face of boxing, Saul Canelo Alvarez. When it comes to boxing ability, Canelo Alvarez is a force to be reckoned with. He's not just a relentless fighter, but a versatile tactician as well, who has conquered and won world titles in 4 weight divisions so far. In terms of his boxing style, it's a blend of the 3 Ps, pressure, power and precision. He's known for his exceptional power punching accuracy and his ability to land devastating shots. Whether it's a crushing body shot or a thunderous right hand to the head, Canelo's punches have the power to change the course of a fight. But for me, what truly sets Canelo apart is his ring generalship though. He's a master at controlling the pace and positioning of the bout. We have seen him dictate the tempo by creating pressure and cutting off the ring, like many of his Mexican counterparts from the past and present, while sometimes he even likes to play possum, luring in opponents once again so he can set up his powerful counterpunches. While Canelo's defensive skills have also evolved over the years, and he's become more adept at slipping punches, using head and waist movement, alongside parrying and blocking shots with his high guard and his ability to roll with the punches, have made him a very tough target to hit cleanly at times. For me, one of his standout qualities is his ability to adapt to different opponents, and whether he's facing a slick boxer, a brawler or a counterpuncher, Canelo can usually adjust to the style to exploit his opponent's weakness. And although he's lost to top opposition like Bivol, Mayweather and Triple G depending on who you ask, in most cases he's always come out on top. His bodywork is also exceptional, and he's earned a reputation as one of the best body punchers in the sport, probably just behind Naoya Inoue. And his left hook to the liver is a signature move that he's used over the years, which has brought many opponents to their knees. While Canelo also has the knockout power as well, which is undeniable. And he's not just a technical fighter, he's a proven finisher as well, who likes to set up traps. When he senses the opening, he pounces with a well-timed combination that often ends hurting his opponent or even knocking them out. Just look at his fight versus Amir Khan. He very intelligently threw the right hand to the body, before several rounds later changing up the route of attack, going up top, knocking out Khan in devastating fashion. Well, technically he's also just brilliant at opening up the guard with his use of feints and different looks he gives his opponent, one of his best being against Triple G with that left hook up top. For me, his ring generalship and his boxing IQ is truly one of the best in the sport. Although sometimes he maybe gets ahead of himself just trying to land a big power punch, he 100% has the capability of using his ring IQ to find the opening in a more creative way. So, in terms of Canelo's numbers though, it's his power punching that really comes to light. And due to him usually being a smaller fighter in terms of height and reach, he's had to rely on trying to close the distance, putting more reliance on his power punching, and this is very evident with his stats. His output of punches thrown per round is the lowest of the Elite Four at 41, however he lands 10.4 power punches with a power punch connection of 45.8%, which isn't by any means the highest, but his total punch connection is a lot better with 35.3% of his punches landing, which is pretty much the same as Naoya Inoue and Gervonta Davis, for example. Interesting, a potential future opponent in David Benavidez is much higher at 38.9%. However, you have to consider the opponents they've both faced thus far. In terms of his knockout rate, he's currently sitting at 65% out of his 60 fights, which is interestingly the lowest of the four, as you would probably consider Canelo a power puncher. However, when you look at the resume and the level of the fighters, he has fought some truly elite fighters, so it's understandable why this maybe isn't as high. Plus, there's always room for this number to go up, or even down I guess. In terms of Canelo's achievements, I think you have to put him at the top of the tree in terms of what he's achieved. His record against former, current and future world champions is 19 wins, 2 losses and 1 defeat with 7 KOs, and it just shows you how many top fighters Canelo has fought throughout his career so far. To put that into perspective, he's beaten 12 more than Usyk, 9 more than Crawford and 7 more than Inoue. However, he has been a pro the longest out of them all since 2005, and records are there to be broken. And for British fans, look away now, as he has 8 victories over UK fighters. And I wouldn't be surprised if that record continues to grow. Not to mention he has won 14 championship titles, including becoming the first undisputed Mexican in the 4-belt era, as he snapped up the 168-pound belt in 13 months. In terms of his resume, I think it's the best in boxing right now. No one comes close to beating 19 former, current and future world champions. And this could no doubt continue to rise over the coming years, and obviously this includes the likes of Shane Mosley, Lara, Miguel Cotto, Amir Khan, Daniel Jacobs, Caleb Plant, Sergey Kovalev, Billy Joe Saunders, and obviously his biggest rival to date, Gennady Golovkin. And his only defeats have come at the hands of Floyd Mayweather and Dmitry Bivol, or Triple G depending on who you ask. But in terms of his best wins, personally I have to go for Miguel Cotto, Sergey Kovalev and Billy Joe Saunders. Now before you say where's Triple G, personally I know there'll be difference of opinions in terms of what are his best 3 wins. I personally find it hard to put Triple G as one of his best wins, as I had him winning the second fight, which however I do believe was a very close fight in my opinion, and I can understand why Canelo got the nod, as it was a very good performance as well. But going on to the fights I think were his best performances, I have to start with Canelo versus Cotto, and it's one of the most highly skilled fights I've ever seen in modern boxing, and this is a fight I often revisit due to the impressive level of skill demonstrated by both fighters. But Canelo's performance in this fight was outstanding for me. We witnessed brilliant counter-punching and combination punching from Canelo. However, Alvarez's output was just that slightly more accurate and impactful on Cotto, making it probably the coming-of-age fight for Canelo, and one I also recommend you go back and watch. Next up, I have to go for his fight versus Sergey Kovalev, and after another impressive display with Jacobs, which I was close to putting on my top 3, Alvarez in this fight moved up 2 weight classes to fight Sergey Kovalev, who at the time was maybe considered a bit over the hill, but still a well-respected light heavyweight, and it's not often you see a fighter moving up 2 divisions to fight someone. Just look at what happened to Charlo when he came up to fight Canelo. But in terms of that fight, we saw a competitive first 10 rounds where Kovalev was really having the most success with his jab, where Canelo was predominantly trying to close the distance, applying pressure to set up his power punches. Eventually, the non-stop pressure got to the fatigued Kovalev, and in the 11th round, Canelo put on the heat, eventually landing a big left hook and right hand combination to finish him off. And even if you think Kovalev was over the hill, I still think this was a brilliant result for Canelo Alvarez. And finally, his fight versus Billy Joe Saunders has to be up there with one of his best wins and performances. At the time, Saunders was considered a very tricky southpaw who was undefeated, with many feeling Canelo would struggle with the movement and counter-punching, as we had seen with Mayweather and the Lara fight. But once again though, Canelo applied his meticulous pressure, using feints and cutting off the ring to set up his power punches throughout. And eventually, Canelo caught Billy Joe with a timely right uppercut, breaking his orbital bone, with ultimately his corner having to call off the fight at the end of the round. Canelo Alvarez for me has made a huge impact in the world of boxing, and his legacy is a testament to the rich boxing tradition and willingness to keep pushing forward despite the haters. Rooted in that Mexican boxing tradition, Canelo embodies the heart, courage and relentless aggression of true Mexican fighters, and he carries the torch of legendary Mexican pugilists who have made their mark in the sport. But what sets Canelo apart is his ability to fuse the Mexican style aggression with the unparalleled flair for combination punching and counterpunching with astute defensive skills. In the ring, he's not just a slugger, he can be an offensive maestro with artful attacks that leave fans in awe. While Canelo's seamless transitions from offense to defense and vice versa are a thing of beauty for me. He's a master at slipping punches, using head movement and countering with devastating power. His fights are not just battles, it's part of the Mexican boxing tradition, as he usually fights on Cinco de Mayo or Mexican Independence Day, continuing the legacy the past fighters had done for him. And for me, Canelo has redefined what it means to be a Mexican fighter in the modern era, adding his own unique ingredient to the mix. And love him or hate him, once Canelo retires, it could be a long time before we get someone who matches what he has done for Mexican boxing and the sport itself.
Canelo, I think you stated your case tonight, and I know you don't want to openly acknowledge that your goal is to be seen as the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. You're too respectful of others in previous generations to say it out loud, so I'll say it. You're the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, and there's no more exalted distinction that anyone in the sport can look for than that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As I wrap up this exploration of boxing's Elite Four, it's clear that Terence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, Oleksandr Usyk and Canelo Alvarez are not just fighters, they're artists in the ring and masters of their craft. Each one brings a unique set of skills and a distinct style that's left a mark in the sport. Whether it's Crawford's versatility and switch hitting, Inoue's explosive power, Usyk's finesse, or Canelo's relentless offensive prowess. It's not often you get fighters that transcend weight classes and create sheer moments of brilliance that will be put in highlight reels in years to come. And they remind us why we love the sweet science of boxing. And even recapping, looking at their numbers, I think it's clear to say that they all have different strengths in different areas. Overall, I think across the board, Naoya Inoue has the best stats, with probably Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford just behind him. Whereas Usyk's style obviously is a bit different and he's in the heavier weight division, so I can understand why some of these numbers may be a bit lower in some areas, as he is a heavyweight now after all. And that's the point. This is why I did not want to rank the list, as by the end of the year or into the start of the next year, this list, they could all very much swap around. But obviously the debate isn't over. Who do you believe deserves your spot in boxing's Mt Rushmore? Obviously I know this list will change over the coming years, and no doubt these fighters will lose and be replaced by other names, but I feel they've made their mark in this generation for sure, there's no denying it. But yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Who's on your Mt Rushmore for boxing, past, present, or what four names do you think will take over from these four? If you've stuck around till the end, make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. Thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, I'll see you in the next one.